Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Promine's Tip of the Month. Today we're going to see how to design a sublevel stoping using the mine planning module from Promine. So essentially, this is what we would like to create in Promine. So essentially you have some sort of an overcut, so a drill axis, and when you blast the ore, you have then the transport drift along with the crosscuts that will serve as the haulage area for all the trucks. So here is a drawing of an ore body, a small ore body here and it's divided into stopes. So I'm going to put this in 2D wireframe to visualize it better. So we have essentially this that will be blasted first. So we have the overcut here represented by this polyline, right? And then we have the tasks. So we're going to see what these tasks mean. And we have the mining blocks as well that tell us what is the quantity or the tonnage that will be removed from each stope. All right, so here we have, essentially we have 3 levels. Okay, so we have level 100 that goes all the way on top here. And then level 75, which is going to be our transport plus our crosscuts, and then will be transformed into an overcut. And then we have level 50, which we will design down here. So we will design a transport drift and crosscuts that will serve as the haulage part for the 75 overcut. All right, so we're going to turn off, to get started, we're going to turn off level 75 here just to understand a little better what's happening here. So essentially the mine planning module uses CAD's blocks features, the feature of CAD that allow you to insert blocks, and you'll insert the blocks with their attributes. So essentially every task or every mining block that you see here is actually a block, and you're seeing its attributes. So mine planning is based off of that, and whenever you insert a task, you simply put it anywhere in the drawing, preferably next to the part that's associated with it. So for example, if this center line here represents my drift, then I have my, let's say, drift, drill, and blast, and then long hole drill, and then drift, drill, and blast again. So you see I'm inserting my blocks in order like this, just so that I'd have an idea of what's happening in this area. But if you would rather create your own table here with all your tasks input, that's no problem as well. As long as you have the tasks inside the drawing, you'll be able to then insert your charts at the end. So if we go to the mine planning options, we'll be able to understand a little better what's happening here. So a few things that you need to configure before inputting your tasks, mining blocks, and drifts are your resources, materials, and optional are categories and destinations. So resources are essentially all the equipment, for example, that you're going to use. For example, here I have this is a concrete support. So this is for the support task. I have a jumbo drill, I have a loader, a production drill, and a truck, right? So you can, each one of these items, you'll also put an availability and a cost per day. And here I configured these as just an example. It doesn't have to match what's really in the industry, depending on the fluctuations of the prices. Materials define little things that are almost unlimited of. So for example, pipes, bolts, screen, meshes, etc. Right? If you would like to have the same options that I do here, you can comment below on this video and mention your email, and we can send you the file associated with this. So once you create your resources and materials, as I explained, you also have the option to do categories. So capital cost, exploration, year 1 and then year 2, 3, 4 plus for the operation. Destinations can be something like the backfill, mill, stockpile, or etc. And then you'll define your drifts, mining blocks, and task types, right? So drifts here, for example, I have a crosscut, and if I click on edit here, I gave it a description, a height and width, advance per day, density of the rock, and a cost per meter. And then you can optionally assign it a category and a destination as well. We won't be using these two much in this video, but you have it as an option. And then you'll assign resources and materials to this type of drift so that when you insert it in the drawing, the program will automatically detect what type of resources and materials. So that let's say that you have 57 drifts in your drawing, the program will be able to calculate the total cost of these drifts. And same goes with every other type of drift. And for mining blocks now, you'll configure a certain tonnage per day. So here I defined, let's say 500 tons per day at $150 per ton for every stope that will be extracted. So the same concept here, you'll assign it materials instead, and you'll give it a grade. So for example, for this type of mining block, I know that I'm extracting 500 tons per day at 4 grams per ton for my ore. Show attributes, this is what we see in the drawing here. So you'll select what type of attributes you want to see for this mining block. For example, here I'm selecting type, name, duration, start date, end date, and delay start. Right, so as I explained, if you want a copy of this, of these options, you can include your email in the comment section below, and we'll be happy to send you a copy of this. And for the task types, this is where you will configure things that serve the daily operation. So for example, drift, drill, and blast, I have here, let's say stope support. I also have, let's say the long hole drill that we'll be using in this, and you can define other tasks as well. If you click on any task type, it's the same concept again. You'll assign resources and materials. For example, for drift, drill, and blast, I want a jumbo drill and a rock bolt. And how many rock bolts? If you click on edit here, you can basically define how much. As an example, I only put 1 per day here, but of course, you'll probably need more than that in real life. And of course, the attributes associated with this specific task type. Now, once you configure all of these, you can save as to make sure that you save these options for future use. And you have other options as well. So for example, calendars here, I put a vacation calendar just to make sure that I count for, holidays and things like that. Of course, this is optional if your mine runs 365 days. We also have the type of format, how the date is displayed, and other options as well. So for now, we'll click cancel, and we have, just to make sure here, we have the correct options. Yes, okay. Now, for what I'm going to do now is essentially design my overcut, but for level 75. Okay, so we're gonna turn this off. Actually, turn these two here. Turn this one off. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is first of all go to plan view, and here, as you can see, I already have my transport drifts here configured. So what I'll do is that I'll design the overcut here along with the tasks and the mining blocks, and then we'll go down 1 level to design the same thing we have here. So go to insert and then click on drift, and then start by designing your drift. So I'm gonna, let's say, start my drift here a little bit outside of the ore body and go all the way here. Of course, we're not designing the ramps now, but I left a little bit of space here to account for that. And then hit enter. You'll have this dialog box show, and here I'm going to name this drift overcut 75, 75 standing for the level where I'm at. Now the type of this drift will be stope over undercut. Use default rate. For the grades here, I'm going to, let's say, add a grade of, let's say that in this specific drift here that I'm designing, because we're designing right into the ore body, so I'm going to pick a grade of 1.8 grams per ton for gold, and then we can also add copper at, let's say, 4%. There we go. The start elevation will be 75, since this is our level, and I don't have to put an end elevation. If I want a 2%, I can just put a 2% grade, and the program will automatically calculate the end elevation at that point right there. The predecessor, I want to make sure to start this right after the level above is done. So what I'll do is say actually add, and I can look in my list here of my previously done tasks. So let's say here overcut. So I think the last thing we do here is mine block 3. Okay, so I'll make sure that right after block 3 is done, I can start this as soon as possible. Or I can even add a small delay of, let's say, 2 days to account for, you know, ventilation and all these other things. Calendar, I'll always pick vacations here to make sure I account for the days off. And you can also set an actual progress for this if some of it is already done, or you can assign a certain percentage, but in this case, I'll leave it empty. Hit OK, and there we have our drift for our 75. Now for the tasks, I'll basically have, for the sake of this presentation, we'll only have 3 drift drilling and blasting tasks here, 1 for every stope. But in reality, of course, you can have many, many more than that. So now to insert our tasks, we're going to go to Insert and choose Task. And first we'll pick Drift, Drill, and Blast. So hit OK. I'm going to place my first task. As I explained, here we put the task next to where it's actually happening. But in reality, you can, you know, put all your tasks on a straight line here, or in a column, or in whatever way you want. So my first task will go here, and this will be called DDB 75-1. So I'm basically my naming convention is level and the order of it. Duration, let's say 2 days. My predecessor here, I'll make sure that that this starts actually also after so actually I'm gonna pick this one for now, hit remove, and I'm gonna do add. I will also want to make sure that this task only starts after block 3. So that's the level above. Only after the level above is done that I can start this here as soon as possible, and hit OK. Now here's, as I explained, I'm just going to move it a little bit to the outside here, and just to make sure. Okay. So now we have this task, DDB 75-1, that's associated with this part here. I'm going to do the same thing again. Task, drift, drill, and blast. Put it here, and name this DDB 75-2, the same concept. Assign it 2 days for drift, drilling, and blasting. Now my predecessor here will actually be the first one here, drift, drill, and blast 1, like that, and hit OK. And finally, my third drift, drilling, and blasting will also be here. So task, drift, drill, and blast. Assign it here. So this one will be DDB 75-3. Duration will be 2 days. My predecessor will now be the second one. All right, so now we're making sure that every drift, drill, and blast only starts after the previous one is done. Now, if you rotate the drawing here, you'll see that these are actually, they were automatically put to the ground, to level 0. A quick way to fix that is to go to select, let's select all of them, go to the options here and make sure that Z is at 75. There we go. So now we have them right on the right level. Perfect. So now we'll input more tasks, right? So we're going to go insert, task again, and then choose our long hole drill. We're going to put that, what we want to do here is put another task for our long hole drilling, right? Because we're working with the sublevel stoping method here. So after our drift, drilling, and blasting, we want to put another task for production. We can call it production drilling, right? And let's say this one will be 75-1. The duration here, we can put, let's say 3 days, long hole drill. My predecessor will be this one here, 75-1, right? So calendar always on vacation. If I didn't put the vacation calendar to my previous tasks, please do that as well, because it's important to account for the dates that are not available for work. Now, since we have 2 tasks here, what I want to do is actually go to Edit, click on this drift, drill, and blast, and add another predecessor. So it's very easy in Promine to go and edit a previously done task by using just the edit command here, which allows you to add more predecessors. For example, we're going to add another production drilling task. So by going into tasks here and then go to long hole drill, add it, let's say here. This one will be production drilling 75-2. Duration, let's say 3 days. My predecessor will be drift drill and blast 2. In this way, calendar vacation, and hit OK. And as we did for drift drill and blast 2, we're going to also edit the third one to have this as a predecessor. So DDB2, production drilling 2, will be the predecessors of number DDB3 here. Now I'm going to add a final task for my overcut. So we're going to go to long hole drill, place it here. This one will be production drilling 75-3. Duration is 3 days. My predecessor now will be this one. Hit OK. Calendar and OK. There we go. So like we did before, we're going to select these tasks and just change the elevation just so that we can have everything organized. This is not necessary, but I like to keep everything organized on one line here. Now we're done with the overcut for level 75, so that now our planning is done here, and we're going to construct basically our lower transport design down here. But before doing that, we want to know how much tonnage we are going to get out of this stope. To do that, we're going to go back to insert and add a mining block now, which is here. Choose 500 tons per day, hit OK, put our mining block, let's say here. This one will be, let's say, block 4, because 1, 2, 3 were the ones above. Now we're doing 4, 5, 6. Now for the tonnage, it's very easy to compute that. All we're going to do is say pick, volume here, say pick again, select our mesh. It has to be a closed mesh, right? Oh, so you see it's telling me now the mesh is not closed. Calculate volume anyway. Yes. So preferably you want the mesh to be closed for accurate calculations. However, the program will try and compute the volume for you even if the mesh is not closed. And hit OK. So now this is our total tonnage based out of the fixed density. And as we configured it in the options, our this here has a gold grade of 4 grams per ton. We can add another one, of course, let's say copper here of 3.5%, just as an example. The elevation of the mining block, we can put it right here without having to go to the options, which is 75. The predecessor, we want to make sure that the mining block comes after our long hole drill, like this, which means that this mining block is available right after our long hole drill is done. Because once you drill and blast, this tonnage is available to be extracted. This is one way to do it. Another way to do it is to design the transport and haulage drifts below and really put the mining blocks at the complete end. However, another way of planning this is just to put it as the following step of long hole drilling. So once we have it like this, we're gonna hit OK. And as we can see, we have the attributes shown here. This one will take 96 days. This might be, you know, not realistic, but as an example is just to show you the number of days which will be displayed here. We're going to proceed to do 2 more mining blocks. So mining block, 500 tons per day. We're going to do the exact same thing we did before. So this one will now be block 5, 500 tons per day. Tonnage now we'll say pick again, pick, and then we'll pick this mesh in the middle here, which is our stope. Again, the mesh is not closed, but we're going to click yes anyway. And then add a copper, let's say, of 2.7% as an example. My predecessor will be long hole production drilling 75-2, right? And hit OK. And also we're gonna put the last mining block here at the end for our last stope. Block 6, tonnage pick, volume pick, select the mesh exactly like what we did before, and hit OK. The tonnage will be calculated. And as an option, we can actually leave the copper grade out here, and let's assume that we only have a gold grade in this part of the ore body. My predecessor will of course be my production drilling number 3. And okay, now as we can see, we've configured, oh, the elevations were not correctly input. We're gonna actually put this on top here, and perfect. So our drilling axis and planning is done for the overcut here on top. So now what we want to do is actually configure the one below here, the transport part. So to do that, to make things a little easier, what we're going to do is actually turn on our elevation 50 annotation and turn this off like this. So now what we're going to do is actually we want to make sure to determine a safe space between the ore body here and our transport drift. So I'm going to go to the essentials, cut one section. We're going to call this section safe distance for level 50. Elevation, pick, and I'm going to pick the most bottom elevation here, because what I want to do is essentially cut a section here and offset it by a certain distance that will resemble my safety factor. So my clips will be very small, so 0.002 of thickness, and cut objects. There we go. This is our, here what we see is essentially our 3. So if I rotate, actually if I go to plan view here, just to show you what it looks like. So you actually, this one, yeah, so you see this is my section that I cut here. So if I go to select section, this will immediately allow me to select the section that I want and go here. And now what I can do is essentially select it, type in the command line offset, and then say through, and type in a value like, let's say, or actually using the dynamic option in BricsCAD here, I can maybe keep it just above 20. So we have a 20 meter distance between the ore body and the transport drift. Go back to plan view, turn off our here. Okay, and now we're ready to basically draw our transport drift. So if you remember from engineering 1 in insert, we have a drift option here. So drift, and then we're gonna basically start here and start drawing just to make sure that our drift is outside this offset, and then we can delete it afterwards in this way, and then hit enter. This one will be transport 50. This one will be the transport type. The grades is none, so we won't add, actually we can even, you know, if you would like, this is optional to add just a 0 grade here. The start elevation will be 50 at 2% slope, like this, and the end elevation will be calculated automatically. The predecessor, we want to make sure to start this right after our, well, this can depend on a lot of factors, and it's really depends on how you want to plan this. The way I'm going to do it now is to basically start this transport drift while the third long hole drilling is happening. What this means is that when this stope is being extracted or drilled, I want to start my transport drift because my distance is far enough to assume that this is a safe distance. So production drilling 75.3 will be my predecessor, like this. Choose my calendar and hit OK. Now for my offset, I can basically delete this and go back to essentials. I can then choose from this list here, erase section, and erase the section that I did because I've already configured my safe distance. Now, I'm going to, this is our transport drift. So if you rotate the drawing, we can see that this is what it looks like. And of course, like if you want to, you also have the option to model this in 3D if you would like from the drift design module here. However, what we're focusing on here is just the tasks and the type of planning that we would like to see. So this is not really for 3D visualization, but it's more for planning. So again, from mind planning, I'm going to hit insert, draw drift, go from here. Let's say go from this point here. I'm going to select nearest, and I'm going to draw a crosscut that goes all the way to here, like this. This one will be crosscut 51. The type will be crosscut. Grades, I'll leave it empty for now. And as you can see, the start and end elevation were automatically detected. My predecessor is transport 50. So it was automatically detected as well because this is where we started our crosscut. And hit OK. Perform the same operation again. So drift, go from, let's say, and this really depends on the planning, of course. This is my second crosscut. So crosscut 052, everything good. And finally, my last crosscut will be from here all the way to down here. This one will be crosscut 53. And there we go. So this is our drift design for the last transport drift down here. To add tasks, the same concept again. We're going to go to insert, add a task, and then now we're going to choose drift, drill, and blast. So let's say that for the sake of this presentation, we're going to focus on drift, drilling, and blasting, long hole drilling, and support. So no need to add, well, of course you have the option to add more tasks than just that, because in real life you have way more tasks than this, but for the sake of the presentation, we're going to focus on that to show you the end result. I'm going to add a task here. For example, I'm going to do 3 tasks for the transport and then 3 for my crosscuts here. So add one, let's say here in the beginning. This one will be DDB 51, or I can call it actually transport DDB. Duration will be, let's say, 3 days. My predecessor, the predecessor will be the same one as the transport drift here. Why? Because the drift and the drift, drilling, and blasting are both starting at the same time. So I'm going to say add, and remember we chose the production drilling 75.3 for the drift here. And this is what I'm also selecting for the drift, drilling, and blasting. Hit OK. And there we go. So now we're going to perform the same operation for all the drift, drilling, and blasting that we have. The second one will be for the crosscut here. This one will be crosscut DDB 052. I'm just gonna Control A, Control C to save time. 3, pick. I want to make sure that this is starting after this one. And we're basically going to have each drift, drilling, and blasting will depend on the previous one done. Yeah, so this is good. So fast forward to the end here, and I decided to actually put 4 tasks for my drift, drill, and blast in my transport drift here. And essentially what you can do, as I explained, we can also insert a support task. So if I go here and I select stope support, I can basically add it here for my stope support. This is just an example. So let's say stope support 52. Duration is, let's say, 1 day to insert my support. I want to make sure that this is done after my drift, drill, and blast is done, like that, in this manner. Of course, all my tasks are down here. So what I'll do is select all of them, go to the options, and put them at 50. And there we go. So now we have completed our sub-level stoping planning for level 50, as we can see here. So now what I'll do is turn on all my tasks and my drifts and my mining blocks as well. And once I do that, I'm going to go to plan view, and then from the mine planning options, go to reports, Gantt chart, hit OK, select everything here, hit enter. And what I'll do is insert it monthly. The output type will be graph. You can also export in a CSV file. Grade range will be automatic so that it can detect the first date and the end date. You can also insert a mark date, which is optional. Annotations will be date and duration. And what I'll do here is actually join tasks of similar type so that I don't have many things in my Gantt chart. I want to every task that's the same will be accumulated in one. Show progress of each task. Yeah, that's no problem as well. Put that on layer 0, hit OK, and there we go. If by any chance that some of the tasks have different predecessors, then they will have no choice but to actually be shown. But if the program detects that you have similar task types that have the same predecessor, it will be accumulated into one. But this is an example of how the Gantt chart will show. So we have each task with a timeline and the name of it, and we have the basically the date on top here, and it's basically showing us all the tasks here. And this is how it's done. And this is our marker that we inserted as well. And of course, you can also insert a cost chart. So by going in costs here, select everything as well, hit enter, and hit OK. And this will insert the total cost for this mine planning part. And at the end, what we can do, of course, is go to Essentials, go to Create Layout, select a scale, hit OK, and this will allow you to insert all of your design here into a layout. So hit Continue, and you have it here. Oh, of course, you can enter the titles here. And well, the coordinates are not too important here, so you can actually select them and delete. What we care about more is the Gantt chart here, and you can, of course, adjust it so that it can fit the whole screen along with the cost chart as well. And yeah, this is how you perform mine planning in Promine by using the CAD blocks feature of CAD along with the attributes. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below, and thank you for watching.